stairs and his face was covered in blood.
Do you know what they were hitting him with?
A gun.
I want you to look at this and this whole thing. You have lied to us, and you do this the whole time you've been sitting there lying. The whole time you've been in here. That's not good.
But that's the thing. I don't know anything.
Okay.
It was the early hours of February 20th, 2015, when Titus County dispatchers received a frantic call from a woman in Mount Pleasant, Texas. On the line was Rosie Wolfford, who said her daughter Samantha had called her in terror.
Titus County 911, what's your emergency?
I have a home invasion. My niece is tied up.
She's tied up.
She is tied up and gagged. I am untying her. I can't get to the door.
What is the victim's name?
Samantha Wolfford.
Samantha claimed intruders had broken into the home, kidnapped her husband Ernie Ibarra, and left her bound and gagged. Deputies rushed to the scene. The front door of the modest house was shattered, hanging off its hinges. Inside, they found 25-year-old Samantha Nicole Wolfford upstairs, with her hands and feet tied and a gag over her mouth. Her 5 young children were in the home, shaken but unharmed. Her husband, however, was nowhere to be found. When deputies asked what had happened, Samantha described a violent invasion. According to her, 3 masked men stormed the bedroom just after 2 a.m., pulling the couple from their bed. They beat Ernie viciously, pistol whipping him as she screamed. One held a knife to her throat, forcing her to watch while the others dragged Ernie down the stairs.
Walk me through what happened.
I don't honestly know what happened.
Okay.
I was in bed asleep,
Okay.
and we heard a noise, and the second I was able to open my eyes, somebody grabbed me and jerked me out of the bed and slammed me down on the ground and started tying me up.
Didn't recognize anything about...
They had black masks on, black shirts, black pants. Every inch of skin was covered.
She claimed they taunted him, using her presence as leverage before forcing her back upstairs, binding her, and leaving with her husband. Deputies combed the scene. There were indeed signs of a struggle: blood smears on the wall near the front door, strands of hair on the carpet, furniture askew. But something struck them as odd. Electronics, wallets, even cash were untouched. Whoever came that night wasn't there to rob the Ibarra home. They came for one reason: Ernie. With the alleged victim still missing, time was critical. Deputies began their search immediately, but with only Samantha's account to go on, they had no description of the attackers and no knowledge of what vehicle they might be driving. All they knew was that somewhere in the East Texas night, a man had been dragged from his home and might already be fighting for his life. Samantha's first interview. Back at the sheriff's office, investigators pressed Samantha for details.
But they did make him tell me not to call the police.
Okay, why did they tell you not to call the police? What was going on for them to tell you not to call the
They
police?
were beating the hell out of him and they had me tied up. And that is the honest to God truth.
She appeared distraught, weeping as she recounted the story. She said she woke to the sound of blankets being ripped off their bed and saw masked men in baggy black clothes. They beat Ernie in front of her, then pulled her out of the bedroom as well. They had me on my knees, forcing him to look at me, she later told detectives, and they were punching him in the face with a gun. According to Samantha, after dragging Ernie outside, the men returned her upstairs, tied her wrists and ankles, gagged her, and left. She claimed she managed to wriggle toward her phone, dialing her mother's number with her nose. That was how Rosie received the terrified call that brought deputies racing to the house.
And they was telling you not to call the police?
They were telling my husband to tell me not to call the police or they'd come back and kill my kids. Yes, they were leaning in.
But it's too late for that. You already called the police.
Yes, I did.
That shouldn't hurt you from giving these names.
I know
Come on,
I
Sam.
don't have a problem writing the statement. I don't have a problem, but please don't let me.
On the surface, it was a story of a home invasion turned deadly, but investigators had learned to trust evidence over emotion. Even as they noted Samantha's tears, they began cataloging details that didn't add up. The first red flags. Deputies asked why Samantha had called her mother rather than 911 directly. She explained she was tied up and could only hit one number with her face. It was her mother's. Detectives found this odd. If she could hit a single number, why not dial emergency services? Another red flag. Samantha claimed she didn't know what vehicle the men were driving, but when detectives asked about her car, she admitted she owned a Chevy Equinox, a vehicle neighbors said they'd seen at the house earlier that night. That car, investigators would soon discover, played a central role in the abduction.
Are they getting anything off his phone?
They're trying to right now, so...
So far, nothing.
They haven't heard back yet.
There's cell phone scene 0.86 miles from a residence in Pittsburgh.
Meanwhile, Ernie's phone was traced. Around 3:20 a.m., it pinged in Pittsburgh, Texas, a small town about 15 miles west. Deputies rushed to the area, scouring darkened roads and rural lots. Before they could pinpoint a location, the signal went dead. Ernie and his captors had vanished. For the moment, all investigators could do was go back to Samantha. Her story was the only lead they had. A marriage in trouble. As the questioning continued, detectives began digging into Samantha and Ernie's relationship. On the outside, they were a young couple raising 5 children together, 2 sets of twins among them. Ernie, 29, worked 2 jobs, at a bat manufacturing plant during the day and at Little Caesars at night, just to keep the family afloat. But behind closed doors, the marriage was crumbling. There were frequent arguments, money troubles, and accusations of infidelity. Samantha had ambitions of becoming an actress and YouTuber, spending time posting videos about her life online. Family members said she seemed more interested in chasing fame than raising her children.
Good morning, everyone. It's 9:20 a.m. and me and the kiddos have been awake about 45 minutes, I guess. Everyone in my household's been sick. That's why my voice sounds so funky.
Ernie, meanwhile, was immersed in gaming, sometimes to the point of neglecting his wife. In 2014, Samantha had even called the police, accusing Ernie of assault.
She was telling us how her husband be treating her and about some other stuff in her past, about her being raped and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, that makes me and Tabo pissed off.
He was arrested and briefly served with a protective order. His family insists those allegations were false. Regardless, the couple reconciled, and by early 2015, they were living together again. But tensions remained high.
I think it's not going to be long. I think you're lying. I think you've been lying to me this whole thing. You did come right. I think you're a liar. What I think. I think you know exactly who did this, and I'll buy your freaking story for a minute. That's what I think. So I tell you what, let's do. Let's just get on with it. Let's just get it on, honey. Because you sit here and you've been lying since the minute I've come in here.
No,
First
I
you
have
didn't have any
not.
boyfriends. Oh, you don't talk to the guys. You love your husband. And then you panic when I tell you we got your phone. We're going through it. Then all of a sudden you start coming up with these freaking numbers on these
Because
other
they're
guys.
not my boyfriends.
Yeah,
they're not
right.
something I would consider my boyfriend.
To detectives, it was starting to look like this crime wasn't random at all. A lead emerges. As detectives pressed Samantha for details, she seemed to have a sudden realization. She mentioned a man she'd met recently at the hospital, someone who went by the nickname Johnny Reb. According to her, he was outraged when she told him about Ernie's alleged abuse and might have taken it upon himself to intervene. She described him as a new acquaintance, claiming she barely knew his last name.
Okay. See, I knew. You know, Sam, you know I'm not here lying to you. You know I know.
The only other thing I know, and I don't even know if I know,
Okay.
but it's a suspicion.
Okay.
I've been up at the hospital with my friend Charlotte,
Okay.
and she's got a guy there, and I swear to God, I cannot go up there that I said any of this.
Okay.
Because they have a lot of friends around here, and my life will be in a lot of danger.
Detectives asked for his real name. Samantha said she didn't know, only that she'd lent him her Chevy Equinox earlier that day to drive a friend home. The implication was clear. Perhaps this man was behind the kidnapping.
She's got this guy in the room with her, and he's talking about how a man shouldn't treat a woman that way, and how you don't do those things to a person,
Okay.
and he's gonna deal with the situation. I didn't take him seriously.
Okay, you see, Sam, you know who did this. But that does not make
But I
you
don't
guilty. I'm
have any
still.
proof that he did. I just have what he said.
Okay,
And
who is
he's
this
got-
guy?
His name's John.
John who?
His Facebook is Rebel, John Rebel. It's John, I don't truly know his last name, but his Facebook says John Rebel. He's got a brother named Greg. He's got a really bad history as far as,
Who's Greg?
I was told he's an informant. I don't know Greg's last name
Where does
either.
John live?
I don't know. I know that he's been staying with Charlotte.
Charlotte who?
Charlotte Camp for Morris, or she's also gone by multiple last names. She just had a baby.
Charlotte Morris?
Charla, S-H-A.
See how you spell her name?
S-H-A-R-L-A.
S-H-A-R-L-A?
Yes.
Charlotte.
Her Facebook says Camp, but at the hospital she was registered under Morris.
O-R-R-I-S?
Yes.
Where's she live at?
I've never been to her house, but John has been staying with Charlotte, and they said Lone Star. Of course, she's here in town at the hospital, and I left my car up there so that she had a way She says her house is
Okay, now let me
taken
tell you
care
something,
of.
Sam. See, you know in your heart, and I know, you know who did this. You know who this guy was when he come in here tonight. You know who he was.
No, I honestly
That does not
promise
make you guilty, but this is the thing.
Within hours, investigators confirmed that Johnny Reb was actually Jonathan Kyle Sanford, 25 years old and recently released from prison. He had been at the hospital because his girlfriend, Charla Kemp, had just given birth. Sanford was not alone. By his side was his brother-in-law, Jose Antonio Ponce, mid-20s. Acting quickly, deputies moved into the maternity ward and located both men. They were immediately taken into custody for questioning, marking the first major break in the case. Sanford talks.
The guy that I do know from town with him, his name is Tay.
Who?
Tay Rhymes.
Tay?
Tay. He's black.
Tay Rouse, he's a black male?
Yes.
Okay, you had him with him? Where's he from?
I didn't say he had. Yes, he had him at the hospital with him. I cannot guarantee that these are the right people.
At first, Sanford denied involvement, but faced with the evidence, the vehicle, his sudden appearance in Samantha's story, he began to talk. What he revealed turned the case upside down. Sanford admitted that Samantha had told him about Ernie's alleged abuse and that he had offered to take care of it. He said the original plan wasn't murder, but a setup. They would plant drugs in Ernie's truck and call the police, getting him arrested. To help him, Sanford recruited Ponce and another friend, Octavius Lamar Rhymes, 28.
All started yesterday. Like you said, yeah, we talked to her about her problem with her husband and all that. Never did I plot to kill a guy. I have a problem with males hitting females.
And I do too.
That's what me and JoJo done fought 3 or 4 times over because he has a bad habit of putting his hands on his fiance.
I agree. You're right.
Can't do it. She had a bad habit. Dude treated her like shit. I said, hell, if it was me, I'm accustomed to settling shit by fighting. Simple as that. I spent most of my life locked up.
So far, you and her are matching on your story. That's exactly what.
But plans like these rarely stay neat. On the night of February 19th, Sanford, Rhymes, Ponce, and Samantha drove in her Chevy Equinox, along with her children, to buy methamphetamine. Sanford later admitted that he, Ponce, and Rhymes smoked it before heading to the Ibarra home. Somewhere on that drive, the plan escalated. Instead of setting Ernie up, they decided to kill him outright. The abduction. According to Sanford's statement, the 3 men entered the Ibarra home around 2 a.m. They pulled Ernie from bed and began beating him savagely, pistol whipping him across the face and head. Samantha, far from being an innocent bystander, was part of the staging. She was tied up, just enough to appear as though she was a victim too.
Who tied her up?
The other dude supposedly tied her up. Supposedly. I don't know if he did or didn't.
You didn't see it? But
No.
she did come down and you saw her tied up and she was with him.
When she came down the first time, she wasn't tied up yet. He had ripped her shirt off and made her go downstairs without her shirt on.
The men forced Ernie outside, in the vehicle, the very Equinox Samantha had claimed ignorance about. They drove him to a remote woodland area in Camp County, known locally as Sand Crossing. There, Ponce pulled a handgun and shot Ernie in the back of the head. Prosecutor David Colley later explained, they had hit him in the head multiple times with the pistol. They had punched him, but the death came from being shot in the back of the head. Ernie was left in the woods, lifeless. The body discovered.
I got him. Okay. Stay right here, girl. Y'all keep him right here. Yeah, see the body. Yeah.
When Sanford finally broke under questioning, he agreed to show investigators where they had left Ernie. Deputies followed him to the wooded site. There, in the grass, they found Ernie's body. He had been brutally beaten, his head bloodied, his life ended by a single execution-style gunshot. The discovery shattered Samantha's story of masked intruders. What she had painted as a random home invasion was now revealed as a carefully planned murder, with her right at the center of it. The text messages. As if Sanford's confession wasn't enough, detectives soon uncovered damning digital evidence. While officers were desperately trying to trace Ernie's phone after his abduction, Samantha had been sending instructions to Rhymes. These were not the words of a terrified wife fearing for her husband's life. They were the words of someone managing an operation. With those messages, Samantha's role as mastermind was undeniable. Arrests multiply. Armed with Sanford's confession and the text records, investigators quickly brought in Octavius Rhymes. He, too, faced charges of aggravated kidnapping and murder. By February 26th, all 3 men, Sanford, Ponce, and Rhymes, were behind bars. Samantha herself was also arrested, charged not only with kidnapping, but with orchestrating the murder of her own husband. The woman who once dreamed of YouTube stardom and acting fame was now infamous for a much darker reason: the case against Samantha. Detectives pieced together the timeline. Samantha befriends Sanford at the hospital in mid-February. She tells him about the alleged abuse and discusses removing Ernie from her life. Together, they plot scenarios, including planting drugs in Ernie's truck. On February 19th, the group, Sanford, Ponce, Rhymes, and Samantha, buys meth and smokes it while driving in her Equinox. In the early hours of February 20th, the men enter the Ibarra home, beat and abduct Ernie, and kill him in Camp County. Samantha ties herself up to feign victimhood, calls her mother, and fabricates a story of masked intruders. While police search for Ernie, she texts her accomplices instructions to destroy his phone. For investigators, the picture was complete. Samantha was not a victim. She was the orchestrator. Guilty pleas from 2 accomplices. The first to face court were Jonathan Sanford and Jose Antonio Ponce. In April 2016, both men entered guilty pleas to charges of aggravated kidnapping and murder. A Titus County grand jury formally sentenced each of them to 50 years in prison. Under Texas law, sentences for aggravated offenses are subject to strict parole rules. Neither Sanford nor Ponce will be eligible for parole until they serve at least half of their time, meaning a minimum of 25 years behind bars. Their sentences run concurrently, so the total length is capped at 50 years, but the parole bar ensures they will remain in prison for decades. According to the Titus County Sheriff's Office, the guilty pleas came after investigators gathered extensive evidence, including cell phone records, physical evidence from the crime scene, and Sanford's own cooperation in leading authorities to Ernie's body. Both men admitted their role in the abduction and killing, though neither stood trial before a jury. Sanford was later incarcerated at the Darrington unit in Rosheron, Texas, while Ponce was transferred to the Allen B. Polunsky unit in Livingston, Texas, one of the most secure facilities in the state. Their convictions closed 2 major chapters in the case, leaving only Rhymes and Samantha herself to face full jury trials. The trial of Octavius Rhymes. The third accomplice, Octavius Lamar Rhymes, chose not to plead guilty. Instead, he opted to take his case before a jury.
I should have spoke to y'all without a word, but I admitted to y'all, that I was in the vicinity when they took the dude from his home. But I didn't realize that they were planning on doing. So like I said, I know y'all ran my criminal background history already. I don't have no violent background, I don't have no felonies, or misdemeanors. No, I've never been in no serious trouble like this ever. So I'm trying to work with y'all, but I can't really give y'all no more information if there ain't no deal on the table.
Prosecutors presented him as one of the central figures in the plot, noting that he had helped obtain methamphetamine on the night of the crime, participated in the assault on Ernie inside the home, and was present when the fatal shot was fired in Camp County. In June 2016, after several days of testimony, a Titus County jury found Rhymes guilty of aggravated kidnapping. He was sentenced to 23 years in prison for that charge alone. Prosecutors then moved forward with the murder trial later that year. In December 2016, a second jury convicted Rhymes of murder. For that conviction, he was sentenced to 75 years in prison. And unlike Sanford and Ponce, the judge ruled that his sentences would be served consecutively. This meant the 23-year term for kidnapping would be followed by the 75-year murder sentence, effectively guaranteeing he would spend the rest of his life in prison. He was also ordered to pay a $10,000 fine. With a combined sentence of 98 years, Rhymes received the harshest punishment of the 3 male accomplices. He was transferred to the Barry B. Telford unit in New Boston, Texas, a maximum security prison. According to state records, he will not be eligible for parole for decades, making it virtually certain he will remain incarcerated for life. Samantha Wolfford's trial. The final and most high-profile trial was that of Samantha Wolfford. Prosecutors alleged she had manipulated the 3 men into helping her get rid of her husband, motivated by anger, marital disputes, and a desire to be free of him. They highlighted her text messages, her changing stories, and Sanford's testimony about their prior discussions of how to take care of Ernie. The defense attempted to paint Samantha as a victim, pointing to past allegations of domestic abuse, but prosecutors countered that no matter what the marital issues had been, orchestrating an abduction and execution-style killing could not be excused. In September 2017, after hearing all the evidence, a Titus County jury found Samantha guilty on all counts. She was sentenced to 50 years for aggravated kidnapping and 99 years for murder, to be served consecutively. At age 28, Samantha was effectively handed a life sentence